So this question, why would someone want to do their own case, essentially their own birth injury case, was asked in a video that my wife and co-counsel just did a few days ago, in which she was talking about the question of whether you should handle your baby's traumatic brain injury case yourself. And I'm glad that this question was asked. And I want to answer it. But first of all, I'm not talking about in this answer individuals who have spoken to an attorney first. They may have spoken to multiple attorneys, and for whatever reason, those attorneys have decided not to move forward with the case. And this family still believes in what they have going on, and taking that information from the investigation of the other attorneys, they are going to go ahead and try to handle things on their own. I'm not talking about these individuals. Who I'm talking about in this video are the people who we talk to. They've went out on their own. They've tried to do it on their own. They haven't talked to any attorneys first before they've tried to do anything. And they have read something, because this is what a lot of times they'll tell us, well, we were able to read, get online, get some information, and based on their own homework and their own understanding, they have went out and they have filed a case on behalf of their brain injured baby. And then when things begin to kind of go in different directions, now they want to call and ask an attorney for help. And so when we talk with these families, a lot of times when we're able to get through everything and we ask essentially, well, why did you go ahead and try to do it this way? The main reason is because they just did not want to pay an attorney to go forward with the case. They just didn't want to pay. And we know that this is an issue. We know that there are a lot of people, that there's a segment of the population that they believe that this is the way to go. And we know this too because we have, past clients who are in certain types of groups, support groups with babies and families who have had babies who have had a traumatic brain injury. And they pretty much tell us the same thing, that there's a segment of the population that, come hell or high water, they are not going to let a lawyer get involved. They're not going to do it because they're just so anti-lawyer. But the problem with this is that, as Renee talked about in her video, is that for birth injury and birth trauma cases, it really takes a specialized knowledge to be able to do these cases. This is usually attorneys who do these types of cases. This is pretty much all that we do. We handle these types of medical malpractice cases. And unless you have that type of understanding, there are just a ton of pitfalls that you can fall into, that these legislatures and these state lawmakers, that they have made when it comes to a lot of these cases. And if you are, for example, if you want to move forward with a case like this, you have to have medical experts. Unless you really have a lot of knowledge on this type of subject, you're not even going to know what experts you're going to need. I mean, who do you need? Where do you find a placental pathologist? Or where do you find a pediatric neuroradiologist? Like, how do you find these people? And then when you do find them, how do you know that first of all, what are they going to charge you to do this type of thing? And what types of questions are you going to have to ask them? Again, Renee touched on this in her other video. When it comes to understanding not only the medicine, but you have to know how the medicine plays a role, especially when it comes to causation, whether there was a deviation from the standard of care, which is what caused your baby's brain injury. So that means that you've got to be able to understand, were there developmental challenges that were there? And do you understand what that means? Were there genetic issues that were there? And again, do you understand these types of issues? Because if you do not, the defense is going to be able to use these things as the cause of the injury or the harm. And like I said, going back to what Renee was talking about, unless you really have specialized knowledge and understanding, it is very challenging to be able to understand. It's just to be able to just get online and read a couple of articles, or, watch a few YouTube videos and think, you know what, I got this down. I'm going to be able to go against this, multi-million-dollar hospital and all the resources that they have. I'm going to be able to go against them, and I'm going to be able to figure out what their army of attorneys, because, the hospital, they aren't representing themselves. They have an army of attorneys who are going to be in here with this. So I know I talked about a lot in this, but this is so important for people who have babies who have suffered traumatic brain injuries to understand this. You know, if you're in that boat of, I don't want to pay a lawyer, or I'm not going to let them take their whatever their percentage is, because the percentages can vary from state to state. Some states you may be able to do 25% max, some may be 30, some may be 40. It just depends. And I know, like I said, there's individuals that are like, I'm not giving them any percentages. I can read myself. If you are that person, you might be making, in my opinion, you might be making a grave mistake if you are trying to do this without speaking with an attorney before you try to take action. If you have more questions, maybe you're watching this video today because your baby has suffered a traumatic brain injury and you do have questions and you want to ask an attorney about those questions that you have. Maybe it is a developmental thing that you have questions about, or genetics, or was it just straight up birth trauma? Did the hospital, the doctors, the nurses, and the medical professionals, are they the ones that caused your baby's HIE injury? If you have that going on, there's a telephone number down below on the screen. I invite you to get your phone and call that number. Speak with my secretary, get on our calendar for us to be able to call you back and discuss your baby story. We do these birth injury investigations all the time, try to help families understand what went wrong, what caused it. Sometimes we're able to help, sometimes we're not able to help, but we will let you know what we think either way. One more thing before I get out of here, make sure when you talk to my secretary that you pick, like I said, you pick a date and a time to get on that calendar so we can know when to call you. And also have a good working email address, because sometimes we have to send things through email and we need a good email address. Finally, I practice law here in the state of Maryland. And I know from time to time we'll have individuals who will contact us. They are not in Maryland. They're in the United States, but they're not in Maryland. If this is you, just understand that we have to use what we call co-counsel or local counsel if you're not in Maryland. That's something we can help work with you on. But I just want to make sure that you understand that co-counsel or that local counsel aspect of things if you call us and you're in the United States, but you're not in Maryland. All right, that's going to be it for today's educational video. Again, I'm Marcus Boston, and I'm one of the childbirth injury and medical malpractice attorneys practicing law here in the state of Maryland at Boston Law Group, LLC. We'll talk with you next time. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.